Sam, thank you so much. My name is Turki Fagira. I'm the founder of Sigma Innovation Engine, a Riyadh-based innovation advisory and multidisciplinary design agency. We're trying to build bridges between Riyadh and the entire galaxy, bringing innovators from all over the world, sharing practical, applied knowledge when it comes to innovation, design, AI, and the creative and future economies. Uh, Thank you so much for making the time and joining our second episode in Sigma Signals. Today, we're hosting this episode with our partners from HKMC, Hans and Madhu, and we're going to start with the very brief intro. We'll start with you, Mikey. Tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to share. So, Mikey Kindler, I'm co-founder and CEO of Lighty AI, which is a generative AI startup here in Silicon Valley. I have been a builder and a practitioner of AI for about 8 to 10 years. Got my first start at it learning on the job when I was a co-founder of the Advanced Solutions Lab at Google Cloud, where we recognized that enterprise customers who really wanted to do AI had no idea how to get started. And it was really transformational at that time to build and deploy into production enterprise grade systems. I loved it so much. I went on to Google AI and running the business side of things there with product strategy, operations, and go to market. And it was a very exciting time to be there because we transformed the organization from a one that was really solely obsessed with paper writing and NeurIPS wins to how do we get this amazing technology into products and services that we love, like the Magic Eraser, Bard, which became Gemini, and features like YouTube Watch Next. And so, with all of that background, then jumped in with friends from MIT and started a company in this very exciting space.
Mikey, if you want to tell something to our audience beside the professional background, want to know Mikey, the innovator, what do you do? Something nobody knows about, maybe?
Sorry, no secrets. But I've really taken my own advice recently. My advice to most people is to start playing with AI, because I think the cavern between what we read in the press and then being able to develop it for yourself seems too wide, right? And so my co-founders and I have all jumped in extremely hands-on, building, prototyping ourselves, and it's really exciting to experiment with the no code, low code options.
It's amazing. Dr. Faris, can you give us like a brief about you?
Sure. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hi, my name is Faris. I am a software developer. I started off studying computer science at King's in the UK, King's College London. And funny enough, my journey into AI started off with a very personal issue. I had a couple of health problems and was taking too many medications at the same time. So I started building a AI-powered medication reminder, which ended up becoming a startup, which ended up becoming the basis of my PhD. And very quickly, my first startup became the first startup ever in King's history to be shut down by the government, because the question was, if your AI ever makes a mistake, who is held responsible? And that started off a whole new journey into the ethics of AI. I became the youngest member of the all-party parliamentary group on the use of AI in public and private sector. And obviously today I work and dive deep into the use of AI in government, the use of AI across private sector in Saudi as well. I oversaw the initiative and had the pleasure of being part of the SADAYA, the Saudi Data and AI Authority AI Ethics Badge Initiative, which encourages private sector entities to register their AI products in Saudi and get a rating of how responsible they are with AI in the kingdom and in general. I was part of the AI Readiness Initiative in Saudi as well. Today, I work as the director of innovation at a consultancy, not very dissimilar to what Turkey's consultancy does, called Beyond. We support government and private sector and innovation initiatives like human capital development and entrepreneurship. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much, Turkey, for inviting me. And I look forward to all of the amazing things we'll learn. Already learning amazing things from people like Mikey here.
Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Faris. We'll go to Barak.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. Very excited to be here. So I'm Barak Turovsky. My fun slash slightly cynical way to introduce myself that I work on those quote unquote esoteric technologies like LLMs and AI. Actually, we worked with Mikey together. She probably can say the same. But it was at the time that it was long before it became the hottest thing on earth. So Mikey mentioned some of the things I started even earlier. Technically, the first LLM was productized at Google at a product called Google Translate. That's the product that I led. That led to a lot of things. That was like 2015, 2016, many years before ChatGPT. To some extent, ChatGPT probably would not exist because that led to a transformer paper. Most of the researchers that now called Magnificent Eight that wrote the transformer paper worked with us on translations. And at some point they go together. Some of them were very junior. For example, Aidan Gomez, who is now running Cohere, CEO of Cohere, was an intern working with us, summer intern. So anyway, they go together and they say, well, there is a better way. We kind of picked on the first launch was amazing. It was the biggest jump in quality, but then it kind of picked because you couldn't get more data and the models were not as capable. That was like machine learning, not AI. And then they're like, well, flexible attention could be a very promising approach. And that's why the paper is called Attention is What You Need, is what you need. And if you read the paper, all of them is like, oh, translations before was this, and now it's way better because that was the use case at that time. So that led to that paper. Some of the co-authors like Ilya Sutskever moved to OpenAI, but it couldn't do much at that time because you needed a lot of compute. And most importantly, you needed data. That led to another thing that Google did, a technology called BERT, bidirectional encoders based on transformers. That was the first transformer architecture. But more importantly, there was two things that Google did that even at that time it was controversial. Mikey probably was also involved. There was a decision to open source it. And a lot of people screamed, why are you giving away the kingdom? And we believed that it will be a good service to humanity, which was correct because we open source not only the weights of BERT, like the model weight, but we also open source a slice of the data, which was even more important. That was to some extent the biggest breakthrough that OpenAI needed because they took some of this data, they added some additional innovations like reinforcement learning with human feedback. But that was the biggest breakthrough that led to ChatGPT 1 and then 2, and eventually to 3 that became so famous. So anyway, did that for 10 years at Google, then moved to run technology research and product for late stage computer vision AI startup. And before my current role as chief AI officer at General Motors, and just before I was at Cisco developing domain specific models for networking domain.
Amazing journey.
Turkey, you didn't tell me I was going to be attending this with legends. I read papers during my research. I swear, I'm not even joking. The first papers they give you to read are papers that Barak mentioned.
This is exactly what we're trying to do, actually.
Wow, mashallah.
Connecting people together, inspiring others as well, and sharing knowledge together. I think what there's so much make us closer than what divide us. And in today's world, I don't think we should just keep a distance. We should connect more often and exchange more knowledge. So this is what me, Hans, and Madhu are trying to do. And you've been pranked. So that's it.
Clearly. No, but it's such a pleasure, honestly. Amazing stuff. Yeah.
Madhu and Hans. Yes. Go ahead, my friends.
Madhu, you want to go ahead?
No, I will follow you, Hans. Go ahead.
Yes, fine. My name is Hans Kurdi, one of the founding partners of HKMC. And Madhu and I have been growing this global consultancy for the last 2.5, 3 years with tremendous roots, probably 10 years back, even then, when both him and I were doing a bunch of startups in Silicon Valley, advising startups. The culmination of all our work basically led us to starting this. And we've been helping companies from India to Ireland and everything in between raise money, go to market positioning, to understanding their operations, et cetera. And we're focusing on the GCC for many reasons. One of which I lived in Riyadh very briefly for a couple of years when I was much younger. I was born in Jordan, grew up in the United States, and Madhu can speak to his stint there as well and his parents' stint there. But the amazing things that are happening there, to Turkey's point, it's really what is bringing us together. The global playground has gotten bigger, and I think tremendous connectivity with artificial intelligence and just general technology. And we're excited to just open up our network and kind of provide these kind of tremendous eggheads, massive knowledge-based individuals like Barak and Mikey, and just connecting them with folks in Riyadh like Dr. Faris and the esteemed folks of Riyadh through Turkey. So we're really excited on this partnership, and there are a lot more conversations to come. And all this is a culmination to building our design and dev studio, which is going to be this massive innovation studio that we're hoping to really break ground in a couple of years.
Amazing. We're there.
Excellent. Thank you, Hans. Yeah, I don't know how I follow this group, but I will desperately attempt to say some interesting things that'll keep people's attention. So my name is Madhu Chamardi. I have been close friends with Hans for close to 20 years at this point. So we're sort of brothers in arms, and he's been a dear friend and mentor and many more, and a chef whenever I show up at the house and ask him to feed me delicious things. So my background, I'll maybe spend a little bit more on that, and also our kind of foray into AI and my foray into AI over the past few years. So I'm an engineer by training, sort of math and computer science undergrad and grad school. My family's been a distributed team since I was 9 years old. So my parents are both still practicing doctors from India. They lived in Saudi Arabia for 5 years, practicing medicine there, and then Ireland for about 16 years. So all my formative teens were in Dublin. So upon demand, my accent changes to being as Irish as they come. And then after that, I moved to the US for grad school. And then my parents since moved to the prairies of Canada. So they live in Saskatchewan, which is where I'm dialing in from. Now I'm here to visit them for a few days. So, and then my sister spent a few years in the Caribbean. So we've been remote before remote was even cool. So I spent the last 20 years on a number of B2B startups. I'm on number 5 now. 3 of them were commercially successful with good outcomes for all. 1 was great learning for me, but we had to wind it down. And then we're on number 5. And it's a privilege to know a lot of the people that I'm currently working with before over the years as well. And then 2 specific ideas for applied AI that kind of got me into this field I'll share. My first introduction was at a company called Descartes Labs, maybe 2017. There were a bunch of Los Alamos National Labs scientists that spun out and decided to build a supercomputer in the cloud on Google. And they were maybe one of Google's biggest users of compute in 2017, 2018 in the Southwest region in the US. And the idea was, how do we analyze the world from space? So geospatial analytics, petabyte scale geospatial analytics, and how do you apply AI to it? So how do you study how many corn and soybean grain bags are being produced in the agricultural belt in America every growing season by just looking at imagery and running machine learning classifiers on top of them, right? This was even maybe around the time the Transformers paper came out. So we were building, cloud classifiers and
I remember the Cars Lab.
yeah. So
I don't good to reconnect. Yeah.
I ran all of their sort of customer engagements, and so very amazing introduction to what AI can do with understanding our own planet. So we work with big commodity traders like Cargill, Bunge, ADM, and also work with the Department of Defense, who are trying to understand famine patterns around the world, because famines always are precursors to revolution. So if the famine is coming, crops not growing, people are unhappy, therefore government is going to be under scrutiny, therefore, so how early can you identify political unrest and civic unrest and help those governments prepare accordingly? So that was my first foray. And then recently, both Hans and I have been advising a healthcare, AI-powered healthcare startup, which basically developed Shazam, the app that lets you identify songs, but for cough sounds. So you cough into a phone for about 7 or 8 seconds, and with high noise precision and recall metrics, we're able to identify whether this is COPD or asthma or COVID or TB.
Holy crap, that's
It's the
amazing.
first. Yeah, it's pretty stunning that the team that builds this, and they are the first government-approved software as a medical device in India for all respiratory illness detection. And so, and then now Hans and I are also kind of thinking about other AI projects in the world of private markets, fund diligence for private equity investors and venture capital and real estate investors, et cetera. But the common theme here is the applications were so early in the world of applying artificial intelligence to use cases around the world. And what took days or what took months are taking days, what took days now takes minutes. So it's a pretty exciting time to realize, despite all the announcements, despite all the FOMO that's being built up, we are so very early from an innovator standpoint.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I mean, it's interesting to get a call to speak on a topic that's something like AI, but like hype versus reality. I'm like, we're way past this. I'm in the camp
Absolutely.
that we are like, if anything, we're underhyped for the transformations that can happen across so many industries. And I think that that press cycle of questioning just comes from a desire to see things go faster.
Mm.
And so we can't quite make the stunning end-to-end delivery across many markets that we know is coming, but we shouldn't be naysayers along the journey, right? Like I think it's just at the beginning, and so that because we can't see the full end, people are questioning if it's really going to deliver value. But yes, like I'm in the underhyped camp.
Yeah, I would just add my more nuanced topic. I think as classical in every big transformative technology wave, you usually overestimate the speed when you get to mainstream, and then you underestimate the speed when it gets to mainstream, how fast the adoption will happen. So I think there is two trends. Obviously, a lot of people are overhyping. Everything is resolved, everything is done tomorrow, etc. Right? And then they don't see it when it will be coming. It might be later that people think, but when it will come, it will be huge. And I mean, I usually give this example about mobile adoption. I was very early on mobile. That I remember I was one of the first leads of mobile payments in PayPal. And I would talk to every retailer probably in 2008, just when app stores came out. And they all said, oh, we want to be fast follower. We don't want to be the first. And then a year after, they were completely desperate because basically eBay and Amazon were eating the lunch, and they would do crazy things, right? They would hire a consultant, give them access to their entire website to reskin it, etc. So I think we're in the same situation that people are overhyping the short term, but don't understand the transformative impact of the longer term. And I think that's kind of related to what Mike is like. I do believe there is an insane amount of hype of all those, acronyms, generative AI, now it's agentic AI, etc. People don't even fully understand what it means. And another aspect that I say to people, especially to startups, is that the biggest service that OpenAI and obviously OpenAI and Google and everyone deal to industry and to humanity is that they democratize access to AI. It's very, very easy to get started with AI today, but it's easy to try and it's easy to prototype and maybe it's easy to raise money, but it's still very hard in the classical Pareto principle to scale and to launch something useful. And it's not a technology thing. It's about product strategy, business strategy, what is useful, how do you use it, etc. So that's why in many cases, word of caution to startups that don't get carried away by a hype and by how easy it is to demo, because in many cases you kill yourself getting to those 10% of use cases, the last mile, so to speak. So
Brack, I
that's kind of my
completely
take on that.
agree. I mean, I think it's it's easy to get trapped in a POC purgatory, right? And you're just
Yeah.
and I think this can happen, for many reasons. One, I think AI is sometimes designated to one group. Like you have this person who's going to be in charge of AI. They're going to produce demos and POCs, and people around the company will get excited. I don't think that's generally the best path to truly create end-to-end systemic change, to have it be in the responsibility of one group, but also just the interconnective tissue of normal business operations that have to be affected by this new wave. The very first AI deployment I ever did, we had weekly status meetings, and I forget what I call them. I think it was weekly sync, right? It was very generic, and at some point I thought we might be sitting in these meetings forever. Like this is not going to happen. But what was really transformative, across enterprise was we did one simple thing, which I renamed the meeting and called it Path to Production, and got the sole focus on how are we actually deploying this and testing it for real results. And the second was an internal marketing campaign with the client for them to show the rest of the company what was created and start to enlist the help and involvement, because every enterprise company has some system that's outdated or one that's built on top of other acquisitions and other technologies. And it's tricky to have it all change in an instant. And so it really does take, Barack, I completely agree. Like thoughtfulness across your product strategy, your operations, all of your systems integration, and has to be seen with a broader plan rather than there's this one cool piece of technology or one situation or a customer experience that could be altered. And so I think it's really bigger thinking that's required.
Yeah, I would just also add, also maybe word of advice. I will just one super short comment. I don't want to hijack the conversation, but one word of advice I give to startups. In many cases, you should assume that you don't have any AI mode. Your mode is a classical startup speed of execution, understanding the use case, understanding the business, etc. Right? Because to a large extent, you probably, as a startup, you probably will not have a mode in AI, right? So that's my usually honest advice to many startups. And sorry, I will go quiet for a while.
I like this conversation. This is exactly what you're trying to bring here, Barak and Mikey, as well. Is I come from the design, I would say, and the customer experience and the product entrepreneurial mindset. We got the investment mindset. You are the builders. We have the government as well, and the consulting as well. I think there's this notion that AI is gonna be a crucial part of our everyday life. For me, I'm still seeing, I still have this gap of knowledge where I didn't know how to apply it in my own business still. Yet, we're seeing, especially in Saudi, we are investing heavily in the infrastructure. We have a plan to enable 1 million young people to become AI developers and experts. Would love maybe here, Faris, you can, maybe I think you're closer than me, just to highlight what's happening, I mean, from key investment and government drivers, and hearing as well from the entrepreneurial sector and from the technology makers, and maybe later bring all of those dots together and see what people like me, I'm here to learn, by the way, how can I make money out of AI?
So, look, on a local landscape, one of the things that I've seen and noticed over the past few years is the constant and just repeated number of times where we fall into the same pits trying to implement AI solutions, especially because of the hype, right? Just for the sake of implementing AI solutions. And as a result, you're bringing in data models that are supposed to be running locally that are not trained on local data. So I was given a very beautiful example, right? There was an American company that we met at Leap a couple of years ago, and they were selling their products to retail stores to track patterns in data to be able to analyze customer behavior. Now, I'm sure all of you here know the month of Ramadan, right? So we have very specific traditions in the month of Ramadan. And one of those is buying dates, to have dates at home and eat it when you break your fast, just before or just at the time where you break your fast in Ramadan. So what they noticed was a gigantic spike in sales of dates in supermarkets and in retail shops in the month before Ramadan. And most of these models would report these as data errors or outliers or data spikes because the models have never seen behavior like this before. So the biggest pitfall was that the data that was trained initially, that these models are initially trained on, is not local data, is not trained on local behavior. And then 2 years ago or a year ago, there was this huge shift into, we need to be investing in local infrastructure, local data. And a lot of those efforts are now being put in place. And a lot of even the Saudi GDPR, called PDPL, only came into effect in September last year, right? So, and it's because they've been learning from a lot of mistakes that are happening elsewhere. Now, the concept that the government is thinking about, and even private sector here, is that electricity became something that's embedded into our life. Then telecommunications became something that was embedded into everything. Then internet, and now AI is going to do exactly the same, right? So the direction that we see today is localize, simply because when you're building something on a foundation that's built locally, you're much more likely to be able to support the use cases and the users and all of the different people and scenarios that happen locally. With respect to the training programs that you're talking about, training a million AI scientists, there's a lot of that happening, and a lot of it is government funded as well, but also private sector. At Beyond, we have an academy, and I swear the only thing people talk to us about is AI. Like we started this academy to do leadership and emerging tech. No one cares. Everybody just wants AI course. And it's super exciting, right? Because it is the next internet. It is the next electricity. It is the new invention of fire, right? Where that's going to be becoming such an essential part of our everyday lives and the way everything works. There's AI in our monitors and our TVs and our air conditioners, and like it's super exciting because these things also have a positive impact, right? They reflect back on the environment, they reflect back on health, they reflect back, and it's it's I think locally we're starting to see a lot of investment in upskilling people, and I think this goes back to something that Mikey said very early in at the start. You're trying to get people to actually dabble with AI. The true reality is when people start dabbling in AI, people start realizing how easy and exciting it is to come up with results that are cool and local, right? I think the fire alarm is going off, so I'm gonna pop off for 1 minute to figure out what's going on in my house. I'll be back.
Hopefully it's all good.
I hope everything's okay, Dr. Ferris. You know, his localization example is very real. It's very true, and it can affect not only a geo population but certainly an industry where there are specific norms. This is why, certainly within Lighty and the platform that we've developed, what it does, our technology is it crawls your unstructured data at a company, and it can help then understand and help you visualize what is truly your on the ground truth, like your as is process. But we would never roll out or make a recommendation for how to adjust that process for maximum, ROI without a human in the loop to say like, okay, look at this. Is this an outlier? Is this a norm, et cetera? And I think that feedback layer from a human is actually I feel like it should be the standard, and in many cases can help prevent errors like that.
Yeah, it's true. I think right now, I think where AI is, you're going to need a human no matter what. There's always a conversation of, well, in the future, when you don't need a human, there's always that point that's like somewhere in the ethereal future, all humans will be eliminated from all jobs. And so people are, there's the FOMO that we talked about, where like we need to get into this now to figure out when that's going to happen. The difference is there are folks, I think, like you, who understand the science, the technology, the product development around it, and where it needs to be, and where it is today to where it's going. And then be able to, and as Barak said, AI is not a moat, yet everyone thinks it's a moat at this point. The question that I have is, you have all these articles that are coming out that's like, companies are firing all these people because AI is helping the current employee pool, so you don't need that many employees, and then firing the HR team that fired all the people because it's sad but true. How do we deal with that human worry, that human, the reaction to the hype of AI? Because well, I still don't know what's going on, but I don't want to be left behind. So where's the sweet spot of today, and how can startups today think about their development and their education locally, so then the product development and the startups that are popping up make sense?
Yeah, I'll take a stab, and then Micah probably has her own thoughts about it. So two things. I think part of the challenge today is that there's a lot of articles, a lot of noise, including from CEOs, including from board members, that unfortunately treat AI or technology as the new AI specifically as the new offshoring wave. Meaning, let's fire expensive people in the US and hire cheap people, I don't know, in India and Philippines, and effectively treating machines are super cheap Indians and Philippines, so to speak, right? And what it means is that, yeah, super cheap people, but it's people, right? Yes, maybe less competent a little bit, but they're super cheap. But it's not the case. Machines and humans are not the same. So you cannot treat it the same way by saying, oh, it's so easy. You don't need to change any process, no workflow. It's just fire people here and, use machines there. I think it's completely overly simplistic and frankly, wrong analogy, because the right analogy is actually transition from paper to digital. Also computerization to the went with mainframe and especially PCs. And the reason is, what it means is that there is two parallels. One, you need to completely rework your workflow. Completely, right? Your workflow will be very different. That's the first thing. The second thing, and in the workflow, you need people. You might need less people in skill set A, but you need people in skill set B. For example, let's take an example of customer support. Yes, you might need less average customer support people. Let's say out of 10, you might need 2 or 3. But guess what? You now need super high-end customer support person or 2 to deal with exceptions, to deal with, complex use cases. You need a new data function to clean up the data, because if data is not cleaned up and adjusted, you'll get garbage in, garbage out, and get a lot of mistakes. So that's the first thing. The second thing, back to my point about skills, the workforce transition from paper to digital required insane amount of computer literacy or computer proficiency in specific functions. Computer literacy, all of us learn how to use Office and email and maybe web search. Computer proficiency, if you're, let's say, I don't know, I'm now in vehicle design space, you had to learn how to use CAD tool, you had to learn how to use Autodesk, etc. So that's, to me, the right analogy. We will need to reskill people. I generally don't believe we will be completely automated. I just don't believe that's the goal. Any technology can do that. Not AI and not all this AGI topics. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm more or less a big believer of what Steve Jobs said. And again, I use the example of computer wave. He was talking about PCs. He said personal computer is like bicycle for the mind, meaning it make people, gives them skills, augment their skills to be faster. In his example, faster than the cheetah. He said, look, what's amazing about our mind is that, as species, we are not that fast. We are not running fast. Yes, we're faster than a turtle, but we're way slower than cheetah or eagle, right? But the beauty of it is that we design tools. Technology creates tools. Human on a bicycle, human on a car, human on a plane, way faster than any species in the world. So that's, to me, the right analogy, that I think we need to look at it this way. And I would actually encourage startups and everyone. I think, will slow down adoption if all you talk about it, let's fire a bunch of people and let's replace them with machines, right? So that's my take on it.
And what's happening now are those who got fired are being rehired.
Yes,
right?
exactly. IBM said that. Well, it might be different skill set, not necessarily the same people. But right, generally speaking, every technology wave creates way more wealth to everyone and way more jobs. Let's compare our quality of life and expectancy of life today versus 1800, and you will see clearly there's more employment, more wealth, more quality of life across the board, right? That I don't think is going to change, but obviously the pace of change is very fast because that's a transition. We need to transition. People need to transition different skill. By the way, that is a very fascinating topic. That's like, you can spend 2 hours about it.
Is dizzying, right? I think it's almost impossible to keep up with AI news, right? Like it's moving so.
And you're saying that as an AI person. So imagine people who are not in
Absolutely.
this industry, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to, I think you could be a professional AI meeting attender. Right. Like there is enough events in Silicon Valley alone to legitimately go to every day. And so I think it's actually important to stay focused on your business and the value that you're trying to create while learning as much as you can about how fast change is coming. But I think that, this offshoring model that or analogy that Barack put forward is very interesting. And what it's unfortunately doing is squashing creativity that your human labor could have at a company. And I do think we all need to get comfortable with the idea that we'll have human and digital labor, but it should be a partnership, not a replacement. I mean, the classic example that people are coming up with is, for radiology. And I mean, poor radiologists are getting picked on the most, but all of the models reveal that, of course, there's some errors for a human. There's also some errors with an AI, but when you put the radiologist and the AI models together, that's when you have the most magic. Like that's when you have it. And so, could you have the AI layer do the first pass? And like, there are just new workflows that need to evolve. And also this frustrating thing has come up about how much time do you need to be saving? Right? I'm going to introduce a new AI agent that's going to take away this piece of my work that was painful before, but it was kind of low value add. And now I've freed up 15 to 20% of my time. Well, if you don't have a clear direction for how you're going to redeploy 15 to 20% of your time, or what are the real high value add activities that you could be doing, I would argue you haven't saved any time. Now,
That's very true.
with engineering and writing code, you can track it as like, I've written more lines of code. You could see that.
Yeah.
But what we're also super interested in and studying at Lighty is, where is the causality? Like, how do we use AI to understand what the actions that you take, which have the biggest coefficient for if you're trying for a sale, an early product release, whatever the goal is. And we think there's still this gap of understanding. And so I think it's important to really think end to end about your workflow. Where are people spending time today? And not just how do I take 15 to 20% off and shave in all these little places for incrementalism, but like what could be very powerful changed end to end.
But see, even these small. Sorry, اتفضل Turkey. Sorry, Turkey, you were saying something. Go ahead.
I think just a lot of us are stuck here is that we're only thinking about AI as just a productive tool. Let's use agentic AIs or whatever just to reduce time and increase productivity. And everybody's experimenting and exploring, but I think we should think beyond that. So I'd love to hear what exactly an eye opener, I would say, for kids, entrepreneurs, investors, and so on. How should we really do that paradigm shift and think about AI not as just a replacement of HR or human resources or whatever, but it's going to be a multiplier for everything that we do?
It should
Can
be a
I?
force multiplier. Oh, Dr. Ferris, please go ahead.
One analogy I love to make is, have you ever seen someone Google in front of you, and you always think this person does not know how to Google, right? They don't know how to. It's true though, right? You watch them try and
Very relevant
like
to
figure
prompts today.
Exactly. So I was about to say that it's exactly the same, right? In order to shift people's mindset into thinking about AI as a tool, is you actually need to convince people that it's a tool, not a replacement. Like Mikey was saying, today I'm like, okay, I'm a programmer, so I have the privilege of being able to write my own code and build my own and fine tune my own LLMs to write emails using my style of writing, right? Not everybody has the ability to do that. But at the end of the day, the reason why I think I can move much faster than other people might in my position is because I know how to Google, i.e., I know how to write prompts, right? And by the way, I remember making fun of prompt engineering as like an Upwork job title for freelancers, when in reality, when I sit down next to my colleagues and I go, I have team members, I go, dude, why didn't you just put that in ChatGPT? And they don't know how. So, and I'm not using ChatGPT or these LLMs as an example, but every single AI tool that comes out will require some level of training and mentality programming, right? To figure out how to use these tools in a way that's beneficial to them. So when Turkey says, how can we shift that paradigm? I really think there's a huge education element that's still missing, right?
There's a human condition education, right? It's what the human is doing.
100%.
It's the same thing with VR, where the brain, it's the only machine that we've ever created that really tricks the mind in thinking that VR is actual reality, not 3D, not immersive anything, but VR.
It's like,
Yeah,
So with
you're
AI,
right.
it's the same thing. It's you have these folks who, one of the articles that I've recently read, it's like it's expanding on human delusions, right? And
Oof.
so and
Oof.
that's scary, right? So how do you Google? How do you prompt ChatGPT to give you what you need? Madhu and I, sometimes when we're looking for something, we're like, all right, let's sit down for a bit and figure out what the paragraph that we're going to use to really get the result that we want. And you think about it. But if I'm someone who's not at the level of acuity as most of the people here, I may outsource my intelligence, whatever's left of it, to AI. Be like, you figure it out for me. And then AI tells me how smart I am, and then I believe it, and then I just perpetuate
Yeah.
nonsensical
No,
results.
there's this insane bias that comes back as a result of
Exactly.
using these tools.
Exactly.
It is definitely harmful. I was speaking to my brother-in-law who refuses to let his 14-year-old daughter use any of these apps, and he's got parental controls on her phone. And he was like, I swear, the moment I saw her trying to install ChatGPT, alarm bells went off in my head. I'm like, my daughter is gonna grow up with lower IQ every single year because of these tools, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, I completely agree. I love the way you put it, human conditioning training or human conditioning education. Yeah,
Well, it's
100%.
also just normalizing it. I mean, quite frankly, we've all gotten very comfortable, I think, using AI in our personal life. You
100%.
know, and then people are a little more skittish in their actual business. But this is where I think traditional like business sharing, all hands, etc. Like people should be sharing. Here's the tool that I built this week, and here's how I experimented with
100%.
it. The agent marketplace, I believe, will be very, very alive. You can see the library across what people are using at your company, and it should model normal human behavior. right? Back in the day when everyone was in the office, you could say, like, I really liked the way someone delivered that presentation, or I really liked the way they prepped for it. Maybe I'm going to go follow up and learn. And it's the same thing with AI. I think, like, how did you go and present that skill? How did you learn? And like, what's an easy way that I can also learn? So I think there's going to be a lot of pop-up, primers and things for, here's what I built. And by the way, here's the easy follow along for how you could also build it yourself.
Yeah, I think it's even more powerful than that. When I talk to boards and advise boards, I tell them two things. A, it needs to be top down and bottom up on both ends. Top down, AI is coming. You should start working on it. But what's way more important is bottom up. Find those people that I call them AI enthusiasts, because in every company, even in most cutting edge companies like Google, I mean, Mike and I were at Google when AI was not as hot. There was a ton of people that just, rolling their eyes and it's like, why are you talking to me about this, right? It's unbelievable now.
I mean, quite frankly, at the Christmas dinner table one year, I was like, how do I not have the hot job? And everyone else was doing facts.
Well, I had way more than that. I was working a lot with Google Cloud in early days, and I would present to CEOs and CIOs, and CTOs that are now on CNBC talking about how AI is the world and how they saw it coming. And I literally remember telling them about LLMs, and more polite of them literally roll their eyes and pretend to be interested.
Yeah,
and more blunt, like investors would say, why the heck are you talking to me about all this stuff? This is only relevant to Google. But back to my point about bottom up, you need to find those internal champions that will basically try things, and from their all self-interest, I'm talking about enterprise, obviously, from their all self-interest, will start talking about how amazing it is and how it helped everyone, because that's how it will spread. Because, like, I'm chief AI officer. If you're chief AI officer, you're coming from a central position and say, oh, AI is great, you should do it. People will not believe you. You need to have internal...
But no bias whatsoever.
Well, I mean, first of all, there is AI enthusiast, there is AI purist, there is AI skeptic, so AI cautious, so AI scared. You have many of those, but they don't fully understand what it is. That's the first thing. The second thing, what's really critical is to build what Micah said. It's important to look on measuring impact in comprehensive manner, because it's not about cost savings. So not only about cost savings, there is way more to it. For example, customer satisfaction. For example, time to market. For example, employee satisfaction. There is a lot of recent research that actually biggest impact of AI is actually what I call raising the floor. It effectively, back to the example of customer support, it makes there was a research from Stanford, Microsoft, and Berkeley, I believe, that they looked at use of Copilot or AI Copilots in customer support, simple customer support environment. And what they found out is that the productivity gains were 15%, again, depends. 15%, by the way, in a highly automated industry, highly process-oriented industry, it's a lot. But on top of it, what they found out, most of the productivity gains was actually with new agents, and let's call them okay or average agents. And what it did, it raised the floor, because Copilot helped average agents become very good agents. Because in this simple environment, the difference between good agent and amazing agent, that amazing agent is extremely open-minded, and they literally have spreadsheets, low-tech spreadsheets on their computer when they talk to people, what to say to people to calm them down when they're upset. They heard somebody did it successfully, or they were successful, just writing it down, and that's how I will say it. Or I need to upsell a product, upsell a subscription, upsell a new product. They know, they literally wrote to themselves, that's what's working. And people who are average...
These are the three keywords.
Yeah, I mean...
Sure.
That's exactly that. I'm not kidding. But you're talking about McDonald's-like environment. It's not like, huge place for creativity. It's very process-oriented, right? Exactly. In this process-oriented environment, that makes a huge difference. That's the first thing. The second thing, I always give that example about translations. Copilot helps them. AI chatbots allows people to speak the lingo. They don't even realize they are speaking slangs of the industry. Instead of, like, let's say, you want your router, Dr. Parsons had maybe issues with the internet. Like, let's say you need to restart your router. You're a technical person, but your mom, if the technical support will go restart the router, she's like, what? Like my mom, like, what is that? What are you talking about? Yeah, and my favorite example in that regard is for 2016 Google Translate. One of the first emails, there's a lot of people who were praising us when we launched it because it's such a big jump in quality. Arabic, by the way, was amazing in terms of jump in quality.
Absolutely fantastic. I remember I was in university at the time. It was a huge thing.
Yeah. So anyway, so we got a lot of faxes and emails and physical letters and you name it. And one of the emails through Google board member was from Dean of Harvard Medical School, that said, hey, I would like to talk to you about, creating better medical translation. I'm like, okay, let's talk. And he sent me, I always laugh when I tell the story. He sent me a pre-read. It basically was a memo of Department of Public Health of State of Massachusetts that said, we actively discourage doctors to use Google Translate, especially in emergency rooms. Why? Because sometimes it's inaccurate. And they gave some examples. And one of the examples was hilarious. So example was, there was a 60-year-old seasonal Mexican worker who was working on apple picking in rural Massachusetts, and he got heart attack on the job. So he's rushed to the hospital, like rural hospital, very simple environment. So, and his wife, who is 60-year-old, illiterate, cannot read even in Spanish and speaks only Spanish. She waits in the waiting room. So the doctor stabilizes him, comes out and talks to her in Spanish with Google Translate and tells her, your husband had a cardiac arrest. And Google Translate translates it into, your husband's heart is in prison. And that was the example. And and this guy who is dean of Harvard Medical School, he's on the public policy board for federal government. He's telling me, the problem is not the translation. The problem, doctors speak in their language that nobody understands. What if this person was simple person who is American or English speaker? What the heck is cardiac arrest? Who knows what it is, right? I mean, can you please help me to develop a diction that will translate medical English to English, right? So that's, to me, a very good example where actually a lot of this, and that's customer satisfaction improvement. That's not productivity improvement, but that's huge, right? Yeah. I apologize, by the way, I need to leave in 3 minutes, but hopefully it was useful.
Thank you, Barak. Honestly, I know you have to leave earlier. We shouldn't. I think we can have like 10, 15 more minutes. Would love to.
I can stay for 3 more minutes, but yeah, I think I spoke enough.
What would be your closing remark about the future of adopting AI, about the opportunities in the region, what's happening today as well between Saudi and the States? Give us like your own creative signal that I would love to share.
So my advice for startups, I know it's hard. It's great to use all those, overhyped words to raise money. That's awesome because that's how you do it. But then you should actually refocus and focus on business cases. What value you're adding instead of focusing on, and forget about what models, forget about agents, forget about generative AI. Sometimes you can take, let's call it simple or stupid machine learning or statistical, and it will do the job for a lot of use cases. So I would advise people to really take seriously what I said about focus. Assume there is no mode. I mean, raise your money. AI is the thing to raise money. That's awesome. But after that, focus on, like, do I understand the use case? Do I really understand what needs to happen in the use case? Do I understand the barriers for adoption? Barriers could be people are scared, right? So I would advise on that front. On a state level, again, my take is that most of AI, other than compute, is commoditized. So, what it means is that don't pretend you'll build something super amazing that nobody can replicate. And obviously, probably Saudi angle that is way more on a strategy. The only real roadblock is compute. The only real inhibitor is compute. In compute, the real roadblock is power. I remember clearly at Google many years ago, we developed custom hardware that is now called TPUs for Translate. And I was sitting in those meetings with Google leadership and telling them why you cannot give me more compute. And they told me, Barak, the ultimate currency in data centers is power, unit of power. So power, because it's such a long cycle, I'm actually doing a podcast about it on a separate, because this part of demand that is fluid and supply, the moment it goes to physical worlds, data centers and power especially, is not fluid at all. It's a 5 to 10 year planning cycle. That's, to me, on a state level or like a strategy level, that's probably one of the biggest topics too.
That's amazing, Barak. Thank you so much for being with us.
Of course. Sorry I cannot stay longer, but hopefully it was useful.
Great to see
you, Mike. Good to see you guys. Thank you. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Thank you.
What a legend. What a legend. Wow. No, absolutely insightful, some of the things that he said. And I know now I'm gonna just constantly keep retelling the story of the heart that went to prison.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting though when we think about a product that does one thing when we want it to do something else. It's very close, but when you don't have that, if you don't know how to think on AI terms and what it is that you're trying to do and follow the hype, you'll build the wrong product. You'll go a million miles of the wrong direction when it's just a simple switch, right? Assuming that's going to be good enough.
There's
every single. Go ahead, Madhu.
no, please. I'll go after you, Dr. Faris. Go ahead.
Thank you. One of the things that I constantly used to hear as an entrepreneur, and I think entrepreneurs are so bored of hearing, is things like, oh, focus on like the minimum that you can build to give your customer, fail fast. You should be more customer centric, build exactly what your customer needs. You hear this 100 million times, but in reality, it's literally the best way to succeed. And there's a reason why it's so boring and you constantly, and why you see it in all of the books. And I was literally in a MISC Launchpad talk the other day, like literally 2 days ago. And they were teaching something that I have never heard of called the jobs to be done canvas, right? And it's another one of those things that you want to do as an entrepreneur, just like the business model canvas and reading the mom test and all of these things, right? And we did that exercise yesterday for one of the projects that we're building, and I gotta say it completely changed the way we see things, right? So fall in love with the solution, not the problem. Like, I know to all of the entrepreneurs, I know you're bored of hearing people like Hans and me and Turkey and Mikey and Madhu say it, but like, there's a reason why we keep saying it. It's because we've made those mistakes, and you're gonna 5 years from now, you're gonna be on a podcast like this one going, follow the same advice that everybody refuses to listen to.
It's that
Well,
magic
I mean,
pill.
I understand it's sometimes really alluring and interesting to get really wrapped up in your own tech, right? Like, this would be so amazing, this would be so great. But like, does it actually solve a problem that anybody has? And that's,
Does it
that's
produce
really,
value?
does it produce value, and does it have staying power to produce real value over time? Like, will that value grow? Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Have you spoken to one of your customers or potential customers? That one thing, and it's like, no, but we know their problem. Like, no, you don't. Go talk to them.
Yeah, there was I grew up in business at Danaher, this wonderful industrial and biotech conglomerate, and part of what it was so known for was the Danaher business system and continuous improvement and the spirit of Kaizen. And I think a lot of that training of thinking about how do you continuously improve your work, and and always thinking that there should be, in a blameless environment, room for improvement and the acceptance of error. I think that thinking is actually very critical for the AI world that we're in today. Of just like, how are we thinking about constantly improving? How do we think about the right things to bring in? But especially with respect to AI builders, and I'm feeling this in my startup, like, the customer obsession is critical. There was
Absolutely.
a mantra of the customers talk, we listen. Yeah, and we can have our own point of view, but it has to be really based in that customer need.
I feel like one of the first things that Silicon Valley exported was there is no such thing as failure. It goes against so many other cultures, right? And so when I was teaching at UC Berkeley and we taught international students, and as they came in, I'd see students from all over the world and their reaction to some of these things that I was saying, and they're like, what do you mean? Like, I'm so afraid to make a mistake. Like, that's where the magic happens, and that's the
Yeah,
difference. That's
100%.
that simple difference is entrepreneurship, creativity, scale, growth, etc., or not.
But it is scary, and I think it's hard for a company or to normalize failure. Part of what we thought was really important back in Google research days was to remind people that, like, this isn't a sure thing. And so we would show, like, here's an experiment that was tried, and here was something that was pursued, and it actually didn't yield the intended results. But what did we learn on the process? And that's hard to do. People don't generally like to go up on stage and show off their stuff that didn't work.
Yeah.
But trying to normalize it and trying to bring it in, especially if it's a fast iteration, because we can't on the one end say we want everyone to experiment with AI and then not give them room to say, like, oh, I tried this thing, it really didn't work, and like invite in the feedback or invite in the opportunity for change.
And that's why what Dr. Faddis said, leadership is still an important thing to learn, so don't dismiss it.
Yes.
I think you had the point. Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Just a
Yeah.
couple of points, just connecting a lot of the threads that we're talking about. By the way, side note, Mikey, that's awesome. I didn't know you were at Danaher. That is that's a $23 billion company that like nobody's heard of.
I
And it's
know.
an amazing, stunning, like model producing business that everybody should pay attention to. So if this audio clip makes it into the podcast, Turkey, I emphasize Danaher and
Yep, I
Danaher.
was there for a decade and at Google for over a decade.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, it's an amazing.
Never heard of it. But, this is gonna be
Yeah,
now.
exactly, right. That's how it's been. But I will say, you asked a question that I think is important for everybody to think about in the audience is how do I know you were sort of saying it in jest earlier, but how do you make money, and then how do I build for my customers with this new technology that's sweeping the world? I think never before has it been so much more accessible to lead from an outcome and to build for the outcome.
Absolutely.
So historically,
Yeah,
software
like
has always been, I have to build the software based on the problem, not the expected outcome. I'm building software for the problem. But now you can start it completely in reverse. You can say, there is an outcome. This person needs to feel better when they go to the doctor. That's the outcome. And you can literally type those words into ChatGPT and ask it to work backwards for you, and then give you the framework to build a product for that outcome. And it's so rare for us to think about outcome and work backwards versus problem and build towards. Right. So one.
it's a big cultural shock, by the way. This is, I've been teaching and telling everyone you cannot innovate or build anything if you didn't have a pain, if you didn't have
Right.
a problem. And
And
there's
if you really understand.
if not seeing the actual outcome, and you need to trust the process of design and innovation.
So
Yeah.
Now shifting that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And it actually goes against so many principles, right? Historically. But now technology has allowed us to finally say, what is the ultimate end goal we're trying to solve? And very often, many people that build don't have any sense of the outcome. If you ask the average software engineer at a 10,000 person company what their piece of software is eventually going to do, they have no idea. Right? They don't know. They're like, oh, this connects to the system. But like, do you know anything about the day in the life of the buyer's colleagues as to who
man,
you're building software for? I have no
so
idea. I build this tool,
you
goes into this tool, into this system. Yeah. Sorry, Dr. Paris, go ahead.
you took me back. I don't know how many years, but I'm not that old. But like you took me back probably 10 years to a summer internship I had working for Credit Suisse as a software developer. And we were building these web portals for their wealth team. It was extremely frustrating having to constantly build something and never see it actually come to light. Right? And you were building this super tiny component. I remember someone telling me a joke about how product teams work, and he was like, "Do you know that the play button has Spotify has its own team?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "That must be the most depressing team in the entire galaxy to work on like an entire product team for the play button, right?
I
Like you
guess it's
don't."
better than the pause button.
That's true.
That was amazing. Credit where
That's
due. That was
amazing.
amazing. So, but like you always want to be building a product where you can measure and see and feel the impact of that product in the real world, and that's outcome based, right? That's not working on the play button. So
Yeah.
absolutely, we are living in exceptional times.
It truly and educating oneself on the outcome is a point I just wanted to for the benefit of whoever ends up listening to our conversation. The question you asked, which is really valuable, Turkey, and all of us sort of talked about it, but an interesting parallel came to mind that I thought I'd surface, which is AI being used as a reason to do mass layoffs. Right. First of all, everybody should know this, that companies seek any convenient market excuse to do what they want to do when it's not a very nice thing to do, right? Layoffs have been around since corporations have been around. And some articles have come out that really people are laying people off because there's some tax advantage loophole that has been shut recently. And so they have to cut costs. Oh, AI. So there's 7 reasons that they really want to do this, but then AI happens to be a convenient screen. Not to say that AI isn't causing a layoff, but just to keep that in mind. But if you look at the world of corporate interns for a second, you look at high intern fields like investment banking, consulting, financial services like hedge funds, even larger corporations like GE has interns, Google has interns, Salesforce has interns. And you look at some of these interns that are just amazing at what they do, right? They're better than their boss's 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 boss in that area, whether it's spreadsheet analysis or writing code. But nobody in the organization says, I am going to fire this intern's boss's boss
Let's
because
switch.
this
Yeah.
intern is brilliant. This intern can run the show. Let us fire the people. Then why are we doing that with AI? Yes, an AI system is arguably the power of 1,000,000 interns, but in that area. So to your point of how do we educate people to think about AI systems, not in the context of job losses, this is a good example. We never fire an intern's boss, no matter how good the intern is. Maybe there 3 instances somewhere. But if we, so we're not unfamiliar to the idea that somebody intelligent, somebody more intelligent than me can still report to me, and collectively we will go into presentations, we will win deals, we will do amazing things. That thought is not new to humans. So we should just connect the dots and say, guys, we do this here. No intern is firing the boss's job. This shouldn't need to happen either. Why is AI used as a convenient excuse to fire people and then only to bring them back later? So anyway, I'm sure there's holes to that parallel, but there's enough similarity there to not decide, hey, an AI system's doing well, let's fire 1,700 people.
I think we've gone for a full circle because that was one of the first things Mikey talked about was how the media covers AI.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
And like any new technology, I think we need to push ourselves to learn, to adapt, to embrace it. And definitely, like technology, some jobs will be eliminated and replaced with new applications. But I come from the human centricity school, which is I think that there will be more appreciation of authentic human creativity. And when we start giving AI every other task to automate and redo again and again, I think this is a good advantage for human creativity, where we're going to have more time and more authentic outcomes compared to AI outcomes in the near future.
Yep.
I would
True.
love to spend like more hours in this. I love the conversation. I love the vibe. I love the enthusiasm. Um, if we're gonna wrap this conversation, I would love to hear from Hans, Madhu, Faris, and Mikey. Mikey, we have to bring you over to Saudi very soon with Hans and Madhu.
We'd love
You
to
know, I've
host you,
never
Mikey.
been.
Really?
I've never been to the region.
Nah, you're missing a lot.
Oh my goodness. No, you must. You must. This is now an official invitation from Saudi to you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
It's a real one too. I mean, when someone from there says it, you got to take it seriously. It's a real invitation.
No, I mean, I was really impressed. I mean, Hans mentioned that we were at the Multiverse event in the fall to hear about the plan for 2030 and all of the development in the region. I mean, it's very well poised to have all of the experience all of the benefits that AI can bring, and certainly has the infrastructure and capability to drive real change.
And honestly, this is the reason why we're doing these kind of shows. And a lot of people really don't realize what Saudi has been doing. The power of the youth. It's a very youthful, energetic country. And we want people to know that we are actually trying and we're building and we're fixing every day. And we have an open arm towards all innovators, designers, makers from all disciplines to come and help us build this future. And this is where I think if there's anything you guys want to tell our audience from government to investors to entrepreneurs, what would be your ask? What are you looking for? How people can reach out to you? What can you offer to help us build this vision?
Beautiful question. Mike, would you like to go first?
Sure, I'm happy. Oh, sorry, did you say Mikey or Madhu?
No, Mikey.
Oh, okay. I don't want to steal his.
If I say Madhu, none of us will have time after. So
I mean,
Oh, that's mean.
I
it's a
love
wonderful
everything he
question.
says, so it's okay.
I would answer it in a couple of different ways. I think one, continuing to invest in education, to demystify the technology, to make sure everyone gets hands-on. I mean, this is a global issue. I was speaking with faculty at Harvard Business School on this topic yesterday, but I think that the way um, uh, the government and private industry has embraced AI, has embraced the importance of technology, certainly leads the way. And so, like, empowerment and education is one. Letting students, helping corporations get very hands-on. Have prototype days. Experience it. Make sure everyone's building. Come back to the things that people built 3 months ago and see if it's actually really working and sticking, or where did they go wrong? Because sometimes it's that reinforcement cycle that's quite important. Of you tried something, it kind of didn't work, and then maybe you pulled back. No, I think that's where startups, that's where enterprises, that's where schools all need the support to say, like, oh, well, how do we shift and how do we keep going and continue that spirit of embracing the technological changes that are coming and being part of them. And I do think that technology has helped the world get so much smaller. And it is
100%.
easy to reach out to someone in Silicon Valley or someone in your industry, and that spirit of sharing and helping, and we are all learning together. I feel very fortunate to have been in this space for a long time and to be living and building a company here in Silicon Valley. But there is no shortage of connections and opportunities and ways even for me to learn and go deeper in an industry. So I think it's, getting scrappy, getting the support from the government to keep investing in education. Also helping startups with early POCs and getting deep in industries, and testing the tech and proving it out to them is very helpful, and continuing to make connections globally to thought leaders and people who are shaping the next wave. Yeah. I am available. I mean, you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to help. I really, I can't underscore how, like, this is such an exciting time. I want everyone to be building. I want everyone to be experimenting with AI. But I'm also, like, I'm an enterprise person, right? I know how hard it is, right? And so I want my goal and for my career is to really help enterprises see the value of AI. Not to talk about it, to really see the value and to have it fundamentally change something that is core to their business. And so, like, I'm open for discussions on all those. Obviously, myself, selfishly, as a startup co-founder, I want more people to be doing POCs and deals with us. And so we're quite open for all of that.
As Madhu and Faris.
To Dr. Faris.
So first of all, I'll start at the end. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Twitter. I do videos in Arabic on TikTok, talking about AI. So if you're interested in learning more, you can always do that. But the one thing that I always say, and maybe some people take this a bit harshly, is that there are no excuses not to educate yourself on AI today, especially in Saudi. Now, I have been asked by God knows how many government entities and companies very similar to Turkey, Turkey's company Sigma, to jump in and mentor, support, teach, run boot camps, workshops, etc., on and educate the elderly, from the elderly to kids, from business owners to business persons in the biggest companies to the smallest government entities. on AI. And today, all of these resources exist for you in Arabic, and in local environments. There are incredible initiatives being undertaken by Sadaya, which is the Saudi Data and AI Authority, by MISC, by Munshaat, which is the Small and Medium Enterprises Authority. Just get through to these people on Twitter, follow them. There's a lot of people like me who constantly retweet these amazing boot camps and opportunities that are offered by the government. There are no more excuses not to educate yourself. And there's one last piece of advice I give to every single AI startup that comes to me. I immediately, the first question I ask is, are you using OpenAI's API? Then you're not an AI startup. We can move on now, right? So I'm not saying that that's the wrong thing to do. I'm saying you cannot resell someone else's product packaged as your own. That does not mean, and by the way, it is not difficult to build your own, not anymore. There are, especially when it comes to infrastructure, there are actually one of the products that I'm very proudly have developed and released into the wild through one of my startups is called GPU Hub. And there are many competitors to us where you can rent a GPU per hour to train your own models and to build your own AI products, right? So you no longer need the supercomputers and the super expensive AWS GPU powered virtual machine to run your AI products. No, it's not like that anymore. So the reason why I'm saying it's no longer an excuse is because it is exciting to be able to dive in and do your own thing. And I promise you, if you've ever built Lego, it's exactly like building Lego. When it's done, that feeling is amazing. So get up there, do it. And if you need help, talk to me. I'm here.
I love it.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
From my end, I big fan of the education part. I think there's so much that you can learn. There's so much free resources to just even dive into it and learn, and it's easy. I think one of the things that I always try to even remind myself is human first. Remember that you're dealing with a machine. Even if this machine is giving you better advice than your therapist or your friends, it doesn't replace another human. And through that, you don't kind of over glamorize kind of this response rate and even enhance your delusions by saying, see, I am a true shaman of the world, as ChatGPT told me I was, um, so remember that. And in within the market, obviously, the cultural impositions that you have to do for your own growth within your market. But AI brings you to global markets sooner. Technology brings you to global markets sooner. Understanding cultural impositions, respecting them, and knowing how to apply those, even from a consultative standpoint, outside of just building your business, is really important. That goes into knowing how to sell. Barak mentioned this. AI is, and also Mikey, AI still stays as a buzzword at this point. It's not a moat, but it's a do it because it's a great way to raise money, because every investor, um, who, as wonderful as they are, may not be as intelligent as you are in your business, but they want to know that you're doing something in AI to future proof their returns. So, in that sense, mentioning AI is important. However, learn how to build a business. Uh, as if it's not AI, right? Learn how to develop the products, understand what an MVP is, when to launch it. I think Dr. Faris mentioned that, like how, you know, all the annoying things that you keep hearing are the truths of what makes a good business great. So the the basics, the mundane, are really important, and it goes back to failure is nothing more than a learning moment, and to understand failure as a learning moment and redesign. One of my favorite words is unlearning. Unlearn these obstacles as a human, that you become your own obstacle. We'll try to remove all of these as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone, so understand your limitations and see if you can go beyond them. So as an entrepreneur, you're working on yourself as much as you are working on your startup. Very, very important. And and why we love Turkey so much, his human first approach is very much congruent with how we do work at HKMC. So keeping that as a core tenet of all the things that you do will remind us all that yes, we're working with machines and they're getting smarter, but we're still working with one another.
Here.
Beautiful. Why am I left with following these amazing prescient thoughts? Like, I don't know.
We saved the best for last, Madhu.
Exactly, Madhu.
Maybe I should.
All the time you want now.
I should. Maybe I should do a dance, and that will kind of act as a counter to all these beautiful points. Um, so I'll take a slightly different approach, which is much more personal to me, right? I tend to generally be a philosophical soul, so I'll share some advice or guidance or my 2 cents on that vein, or in that vein. Um, First, absolutely. Second, what Mikey was saying about education and just go do things. And Dr. Faris's point of no excuses is probably more valuable now than ever before. And Hans's point of not forgetting the human condition is so spot on. I like to emphasize this idea of agency, human agency, right? Personal agency. There's never been, it's probably without hyperbole, there's never been, at least in our lives so far, a more apt time to go and answer the burning desire you've always had of, wouldn't it be great if there was a fill in the blank? You can go fill that blank, right? So this is a call to action to everybody, whether you are a 21-year-old listening to this, a 72-year-old listening to this, if you're a practitioner of business, you're a practitioner of tech or medicine or what have you, for yourself, for your family, for your company, for your country, for the planet. There's things you want to do. There are tools now that you can do, right? So it's the greatest gift we ourselves are starting to give ourselves to be more useful to ourselves. But the ultimate, the beneficiary is the human. But you now have the ability to go and build things you want to build, and so it's an amazing time to be alive. And sometimes I feel kind of surprised and scared, like, wait, is it okay for me to have access to all these tools? Is this illegal? Like, is this level of
It
power?
feels illegal.
It feels illegal. It feels like, wait, I don't, does everybody know this? Or should I tell people? I joke not. This is sometimes how I feel. So for all the builders listening, for all the policymakers listening, for whoever's listening, right? It's, grab the opportunity for yourself, for your society, for those around you. It's a wonderful time to do this.
Amazing, Madhu.
Madhu, do you just want to mention how to reach us?
Oh my gosh, yes. Sorry, yes. We are posting on LinkedIn where emails are open. Yeah, anytime, please. Happy to share. If people didn't get enough philosophy, if they want more, do reach out and we'll have it in spades.
Can I also extend an invitation to Madhu and Hans? When you're ever in Riyadh, please give me the honor and the pleasure of sitting down with you in person.
Thank you. What a privilege. Maybe we'll show up at Mikey's place. Mikey up and come over.
Only if Turkey allows us, because we're gonna go see Turkey, and if he allows us to leave his presence, then we're happy to hang out with you.
We're really eager.
No, Turkey will invite me as well, for sure.
Yes. Thank you so much. Really appreciate them. I'm extremely grateful to you all guys, Mikey, Faris, Hans, Madhu. I think there is so much happening, but the key message that I got out of today, let's roll up our sleeves. Let's learn, let's co-build, and let's design a better future together. Using AI as a tool that will empower us and the future generations. There hasn't been a more exciting time than today, that time that we're living. In Riyadh, in Saudi, we're trying to become this hub. We're welcoming everybody to join us in this mission. Hopefully, we're going to have you over very soon, trying Saudi cuisine, engaging in our amazing and wonderful culture, and working together to do this, to bring this vision to life. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for the pleasure of being among all of you. Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.